Well, here we go. After much deliberation, I tell you what, took me most all day. I did the resume ranking earlier. It's halftime of the Pittsburgh Las Vegas NFL game. Why not do the power ranking? I got it set. Let's start right here with number 10 this week and work our way up to number 1. It may be a little bit of a shocker. We shall see. Number 10, I think, is USC. They had some great takeaways versus Arizona State on the road, and that was the difference in that game. The defense is still suspect for USC. What can I say? The offense is really, really good, but are they going to be able to complement that once they play tougher teams and not allow 35 points? They might not be able to score 35 points versus a real defense. We shall see with USC. I had them in the playoff. I'm rooting for them. Fight on. They are the highest scoring team in the nation at 55 points per game. They're getting 569 yards per game. But defensively, giving up 20 points per game and 365 yards per game. Last week, I focused on the quarterbacks in the resume ranking or the power ranking. This is the power ranking, the teams that I think are best in the nation. This week I'm focusing on points per game and yards per game, both offensively and defensively. That's not to say that it changes my opinion on any team. That's just what I'm telling you right now for these rankings to make it just a little more personal. I think the number 9 team in the nation, just ahead of USC, has to be Utah still. They continue to win without Cam Rising, and Utah beat USC twice last year. They held UCLA to 7 points. That defense is legit, giving up 10 points per game and 264 yards per game. But offensively, they are the worst of these 10 teams, only scoring 22 points per game and 323 yards per game. Number 8 is Florida State. Yep. Listen, they had a scare against Boston College. It was at Boston College, but only 2 points. And then an overtime victory versus a Clemson team that lost to Duke. Florida State is the epitome of inconsistency so far, but they are winning these games. They are number 8. They're scoring, or they have the worst defense in the top 10, giving up 23 points per game and 401 yards per game. I know they have played like 3 Power 5 opponents, LSU included, but you got to do a little bit better. You're number 8, all right? Offensively, you're getting 43 points per game and 427 yards per game. That's pretty good. Now, where was I going to put Oregon after that beatdown? They shut down that Sanders parade, didn't they? Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders. Only 6 points allowed. Oregon is number 7. Defensively, elite. Dan Lanning is doing his thing, giving up 13 points per game and 264 yards per game, 54 points per game offensively, and 571 yards per game offensively. They're legitimate, and that's three of the 4 teams so far are Pac-12 teams, and number 6. It breaks that up a little bit. Texas. Baylor was no match, but Texas continues to improve defensively, giving up 13 points per game, 299 yards. That includes a performance at Alabama. Remember that. 35 points per game and 433 yards per game. But also remember that Alabama is not what we thought they were. Yeah, Milroe still not very good. But Texas got that win. They beat Baylor. They're number 6. I think number 5 after their win, last second win versus Notre Dame at Notre Dame in front of touchdown Jesus. Ohio State. Ohio State's number 5. Ryan Day cried. He cried, "We're tough. We're tough," he says. What an embarrassing post-game interview that was, I think. Lou Holtz, my God, poor Lou Holtz. He's like 90. He is a Notre Dame homer. Come on, get over that. They beat him on the road, though. They have a great defense. 8 points per game allowed on defensively, 256 yards per game allowed. And offensively, they're scoring 35 and 448 yards per game. They're number 5. Number 4 is Washington. They moved down a spot from last week. They had a huge lead at halftime, but ended up giving up a lot of points to Cal later in the game. They are allowing 17 points per game and 371 yards per game. But they are getting the most yards per game in the nation offensively, 593, and getting 50 points per game. Number 3. This may surprise some folks. I don't even know if I want to do it. I'm going to do it. It's Georgia. Georgia's number 3. That's right. South Carolina and UAB scored 14 points on Georgia. Whoopee. Who cares, right? I think they're bored. Like most of these, like Michigan, really. Michigan and Georgia are just bored. They know they're going to meet up in the national championship. But right now, Georgia, after their 21 straight wins, I'm moving them down 2 spots. That's right. I think 2 teams have been more impressive through 4 games this season. Defensively, they're giving up 11 points per game and 282 yards per game. They're scoring 42 points per game offensively and 497 yards offensively. That's great. And it's not their fault that they're playing nobody, just like it's not Michigan's fault. But I just think the defenses of the number 1 and number 2 teams are better than Georgia's. And number 2 is Penn State. Iowa's offense is bad. Okay, we all understand that. But they were never shut out, ever, since the year 2000. So a great performance by Penn State's defense. And they scored 31, or 31, it was 31-0. They scored 31 on Iowa's defense. They're averaging 41 points per game, 450 yards per game, only giving up 9 points per game. And they have played the likes of West Virginia, Iowa, some good teams. And they lead this top 10 ranking in yards per game allowed at 220. That leaves one team at the top, and that is Michigan. They still have yet to give up 2 digits in a game. Yes, it was versus ECU, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers, but UNLV has scored 40 plus in every game except for Michigan. They beat Vanderbilt. Not that Vanderbilt's that great, but they did do that. And Michigan is giving up the nation's least amount of points per game, 6 points per game, and 231 yards per game defensively. They're scoring 32 points per game and 405 yards per game, and let's not forget, they've been just on cruise control. Like I said, with Georgia, they're bored. I think J.J. McCarthy is an elite quarterback, running the ball, throwing the ball. Blake Corum is top 3 running back in the nation. Donovan Edwards needs to find his way. But, behind him, Khalil Mullings, the weapons that are stepping up behind Roman Wilson and Cornelius Johnson at wide receiver are promising. Tyler Morris and Samaj Morgan and others. Colston Loveland is amazing. A.J. Barner is coming on the scene. We just got to see Michigan play somebody. Georgia played a better team than Michigan in South Carolina, probably. I don't know. Rutgers and South Carolina might be equal. Really. Rutgers definitely has the better defense. I don't know. But that's how I have it right now this week after week 4. Michigan is number 1, Penn State 2, Georgia is 3, and Washington is 4. Ohio State right behind at 5, Texas at 6, Oregon at number 7, Florida State number 8, Utah is number 9, and USC is number 10. The 4 teams that I had in the playoff are still in this top 10, which I'll just go ahead and say I had a video on it. I might put that up there, my predictions. But Michigan was in there, Georgia was in there, and I had Texas and USC in there. They're all still rolling along, survive and advance. Something that all these 10 teams can say that some others cannot. So there you have it. Have a great day, everybody. But go blue.